Voiceover In and Out, and we are ready to go. Today we're going to pick up where we left off, and we're going to continue talking about these predictable patterns in apps. We are going to be revisiting these patterns, as I said at the beginning today, these predictable patterns in apps, and it is very important that you get used to this. I also want to point out that everything we're teaching can be reinforced not only by the documents that Rita has created and that we're going to send out, but also by the iPhone or iPad user guide. We talked about it on day one, and I really cannot stress enough that that's a great resource. It doesn't matter if you want to access it in the Books app. It's available there. If you're not comfortable with the Books app yet, we'll teach it later, but if you're not, you can also access it from Apple's Safari web browser or any web browser. A good way to reinforce a lot of this, because we are teaching VoiceOver first and then all these apps as a secondary aspect. You know, it would be different if this course were called iOS In and Out, right? Then we'd have to teach every detail of every app as much as we reasonably could do something like that. Our goal here is to teach you enough about each app to help you get started in a useful way and maybe pique your curiosity to learn more. But we're doing it from a perspective of how does a VoiceOver user find his or her way around that app. So as an example, we talked about the phone app on Monday, and I did not teach you everything there is to possibly know about the phone app, right? We didn't talk about in-call service. In other words, when you are on a phone call with someone, what options do you have on the screen? And there's a lot of things that we could talk about, some of which we should, and we will. Others which we probably won't for the sake of time. So to learn about them, you need to use the user guide. You need to go to Apple Support. Apple Support has a YouTube channel, and they post little video walkthroughs of things, you know. And then there are websites like 9to5Mac and Apple Insider and Mac Rumors who do great tips and tricks every year at the release of a new operating system. And we at TTJ do that too. So, you know, stay tuned for all this. Now, speaking of the in-call features, I do want to talk about that because some of it does affect VoiceOver users specifically as far as how this is done. There are a couple of differences that occur when you are a VoiceOver user. One of them is that the by default, the proximity sensor and the ambient light sensor, I guess, are used to determine a person's proximity to the earpiece of the phone. When I say earpiece, I'm referring to the top part where you rest your ear when you are on a call. And I guess it would also be using the accelerometer, because the angle of the phone also is that, you know, there's like 5 different, maybe more, I forget now actually, how many sensors are in this thing, but you've got an accelerometer, you've got gyros, you know, gyroscope. These things all help with anything from gameplay to measuring a person's activity, or, you know, a lot of other things. And one of the things that happens for a VoiceOver user is when you pull the phone away from your ear, it automatically switches to speaker. And when you put the phone to your ear, up against your ear, it goes off of speaker. I'm not a fan of that feature. Okay, I'm glad Apple incorporates it. I'm not picking on Apple. It's a great feature, okay? And it's good that we have it. But I don't like it because I'm typically, not all the time, but a lot of times when I'm on the phone, I'm moving around, you know. Maybe I'm carrying groceries in, or I'm just doing other things at the same time. And if that phone is not tight against my ear, what can happen is it'll switch from earpiece to speaker, speaker to earpiece, earpiece to speaker. And inevitably with that is a brief momentary delay, probably not even a second in length, but it's enough that if it's happening constantly or even frequently, when you're talking to the person and they're talking to you, you're not going to hear every word they're saying, you know, and suddenly it's going to be, you know, so I don't like that. I want to disable that feature, and you can do that. So you can head over to settings. That's under accessibility, VoiceOver, and then it's under audio. And a feature is called Auto Select Speaker in call. So you can turn that off if you so choose, and then it works like it does for our sighted counterparts, which means you simply have to find the icon on screen in order to change from speaker to, they just call it iPhone. That's the earpiece. And you might have other audio sources as well. Maybe you got some HomePods. You can use your HomePod minis or your full-size HomePods if you still have those as a way to a speakerphone. You can use Bluetooth, your AirPods, or other headsets, your car audio. So you might have other sources besides just the iPhone and the speaker, as they call it. But you have to find that on screen. And I think the auto select speaker is probably an attempt to just make it easier for folks who are not comfortable yet with on screen. But let's talk about on screen when you're in a call. How do you make this work if you need to find that speaker icon? Or maybe you need to press 1. It says for English, press 1. Well, how are you going to press 1? All right. So the first step in using the screen of the iPhone while you're on a call is to pull the phone away from your ear. You must do that before you can expect to be able to use the screen, or the screen will not respond. And that is by design, because what we don't want is we don't want our ear and our face triggering accidental button presses. You could hang up on somebody, or you could press dial a digit or something, and we don't want these errant button presses. So when the phone, again, using these various sensors inside the phone, when it detects that it is against a person's face, it's going to shut off the screen, okay? The screen will not respond during that period of time. So you need to pull the phone away from your ear before you begin. When you do pull the phone away from your ear, you want to make it clear to the phone, the sensors in the phone, that that's what you're doing. Now, it doesn't have to be an aggressive jerking motion or anything, but you need to make the motion enough that it's, the phone is going to recognize something happened, okay? And I also suggest waiting about a second or two. I see these questions all the time. Well, my phone doesn't respond the first time. Well, just wait a second, and it probably will. You just give it a moment, give it a moment to kind of recalibrate. I don't know that it's really recalibrating, but just give it a moment to detect what's going on around you or around it. Before you start trying to tap the screen. And the other thing that can happen, and this is actually very common, if you touch too high up on the screen while you're on a call, the phone may think that it is your ear against the earpiece and not your hands, and it may again lock the screen, or shut off the screen. So I suggest keeping your fingers lower down on the phone when you're trying to navigate while on a call. And this actually happens in FaceTime, and it not regular video FaceTime, but it can happen in FaceTime audio calls. And it even happens on Zoom. It doesn't happen on WebEx because WebEx doesn't use the traditional in-call API that Apple has given to developers to use. They've done their own thing, and it doesn't work that way. But the Zoom uses the traditional in-call, which is actually a nice thing in some cases. But it does mean you have to be careful where your fingers end up. Keep them on the lower half of the screen, and you'll probably be fine. So you pulled the phone away from your ear. You've waited a second or two, and now you start swiping. Now, as a VoiceOver user, you're going to see the keypad. Once the call is connected, the keypad comes up automatically, so that if you do need to use IVR, this is, for sales, press 1, for support, press 2. You can actually do that. And you just, either swipe left and right to find the number that you want, or you can explore by tap, by touch, and then double tap when you find the correct digit. If you don't want to use the keypad, if you want to do some other things, there is a hide button to the right. The easiest way to find it anyway, I think, is to to swipe to the right of the pound sign. So, you know, your bottom row, because the numbers start at the top, 1, 2, 3, left to right, and then the next row, 4, 5, 6, you know. So the bottom row is going to be star, 0, pound. Just if you flick one more time to the right, you should find the hide button. And if you double tap that, it's going to hide the keypad, and instead it's going to present these in-call options. For example, the audio button. It might say speaker, it might say audio. If there's only iPhone and speaker to choose from, it'll say speaker. If it's if you have other sources like HomePods or car audio or AirPods, you know, connected or something, then it will it'll say audio, because you can choose, you know. And there are other things. There's the mute button, where you can, you know, mute so no one can hear you. You have the add call button, which is how you create a conference call. If you get a call waiting, it'll show, you know, end and accept, or hold and accept, you know, all the, and of course the end call button always appears also with all these in call options. And you can use that to hang up, or you can do your magic tap, your 2-finger double tap. What I would say here is, again, there's a lot that we're not covering simply because this is first and foremost a voiceover class. But there's really cool stuff like creating dialing strings. You know, if you have to call a number and then every time you have to press 1 and then dial a 4-digit extension or something, you can do all of that by, you know, on your iPhone. You can have that set up ahead of time in a contact card. And that was one of the things we talked about at the help session yesterday. And then, you know, again, these in-call options and how to create a conference call and swap back and forth and merge calls and all that. I'd love to take the time, you know, to go through all of that stuff step by step with you. But if we did that really and truly, the course would be so much longer than it already is. Hopefully it's enough to show you some of what's possible. And, you know, that combined with the fundamentals of voiceover hopefully are enough to help you to go further and learn more, not only about the phone app, but everywhere else. Now, the phone app, one of the most important things we saw about the phone app right from the beginning is its tabbed structure, that it has these 5 tabs across the bottom of the screen: favorites, recents, contacts, keypad, and voicemail. I'm going to show you now another app that is the same way, that has multiple tabs across the bottom of the screen. And when you choose one of those apps, it's going to directly affect what you see on the rest of the screen. We're going to be talking about the clock app very quickly. I don't want to spend a lot of time with the clock app, but I do want to show you that it's another app that conforms to this tabbed view.
Clock, 2:42 p.m. Double tap to open.
Well, the first thing you notice when I tap on the clock icon is that it reads me the current time. And then, of course, I have my hints on, so it says double tap to open. So I'll do that.
Clock, edit button.
If we go to the bottom left of the screen,
Tab bar, world clock, tab, 1 of 4. Selected, alarm, tab, stopwatch, tab, timer, tab, 4 of 4.
So all I'm doing is swiping to the right, and now I'm at the farthest tab to the right. I can't go any further.
Timer, tab, 4 of 4.
But I certainly can go back to the left.
Stopwatch, tab, 3 of 4.
And it even tells me which tab is already selected.
Selected, alarm, tab, 2 of 4.
And if I want to pick any of the other tabs, I just double tap. So here, for example, is the alarms tab that I'm in right now. And if I look at the upper left, we have
edit button.
And if I look at the upper right, you remember I said oftentimes in the upper right is like a new button or compose or add. Well, here,
add button.
There's an add button on the upper right-hand corner of the screen to add new alarms. And when you add alarms, you can customize various options for the alarms. You can explore by swiping left and right or by touch, and then each of the items you can either double tap or swipe to make adjustments. So we're going to show you that in a moment. But let me first show you if I look at one of these alarms.
10:50 a.m. and 10:35, 10:30.
What I do is I have a lot of alarms set and I just use the ones that I want. Some of them are automatically set to recur every day, and others only certain days of the week. You know, I have an alarm for church that's only on Sundays, and this supplements a sleep schedule that I also have set up through the Health app, which has a targeted bedtime, and which then gives me notifications about that bedtime, and which has a special wake-up alarm and so forth. But these alarms here...
9:10 a.m. alarm off. Double tap to toggle setting. Actions available.
All right, you heard two very important hints here. Double tap to toggle settings, so if I want to turn this alarm on, I just double tap it.
Off. 9:10 a.m. alarm off. On. 9:10 a.m. alarm on.
See, now it's on. And if I double tap it again?
Off. 9:10 a.m. alarm off.
Okay, so it's easy to toggle. Anytime you have a toggle switch for VoiceOver users, you just double tap to turn it on or off. But it also said actions available. You remember learning about the actions rotor. You have these actions. You remember learning about the rotor and how there's an actions item in the rotor, and when there are actions available, it usually defaults to the actions rotor item. So all I have to do is swipe up and down with one finger. So here...
9:15 a.m. church every Sunday on. 9:10 a.m. alarm off.
Okay.
Double tap to toggle setting. Actions available.
That's the one we were working with. So the actions, if I swipe down or up, you're going to hear this.
Delete. Edit. Activate default.
So I have the choice to edit the alarm, to delete the alarm, or to activate the alarm. Any one of those that I want, I just double tap it. So those are rotor actions. So here again, you have, patterns. We've seen rotor actions before, and we've seen toggles, and we've seen the add button at the upper right, and the tabs across the bottom. Let's go into the add alarm option here.
Add button.
Upper right, and just double tap.
Add. Double tap to dismiss pop-up window button.
Oh, okay. And we swipe to the right.
Cancel button.
If we don't want to add the alarm, there's a cancel button. Very much like the add contact screen that we learned about on Monday, right? And when we did see the add contact screen, we got to learn about value adjusters, because we got to learn about pickers, like when we wanted to choose from different types of things, or we had, we had pop-up for phone number type, home, work, iPhone. I guess we did value adjusters with the page selector on the home screen, actually. And we learned, about text edit fields. Well, now we're going to learn about another kind of element today, all right? So as we're teaching these apps, you see, we learn about different on-screen elements that we might run into and how to work with them. And then you can use that and apply that knowledge to other apps and websites and other things that you may encounter. So let's start swiping to the right and see just what we have.
Add alarm heading.
Okay, that's just the heading with the title Add Alarm.
Save button.
There's the save button for when we're ready to save it.
2 o'clock. Picker item. Adjustable. 2 of 12. Swipe up or down with one finger to adjust the value.
And these are your value adjusters to pick or to set the hour and the minute for the alarm. Now, at first glance, these just appear to be traditional value adjusters. And in fact, the rotor defaults to adjust value. Watch, if I turn the rotor to the left,
screen recognition off.
It goes to screen recognition. But if I turn the rotor back to the right where it was,
adjust value.
See, adjust value. So now I can swipe up or down with one finger to change the hour that this alarm is set for. All right, so
3 o'clock, 3 of 12.
I swiped up.
4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
There were
3 of 12.
some downward swipes also. Let's say 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, 5 of 12.
All right. Now here's the interesting thing. Swipe to the right.
46 minutes. Picker item.
It's at 46 minutes, okay? So I need my alarm set for 5:15, not 5:46. Okay, it's basing that on the current time, by the way. I need my alarm set for 5:15. So I guess I'm gonna have to
45, 44, 43, 40, 41, 40 minutes, 30, not 38 minutes.
How many people want to sit here and listen to me swipe all the way down to 15? Well, I don't want to have to do it either. And thankfully, I don't. Okay? Remember I said to you that at first glance, these appear to be just traditional value adjusters. They're not. These are hybrid elements. This is a combination of a value adjuster and a button, which if we double tap on it, sort of almost magically reveals an edit field. So let's go back here.
5 o'clock. Pick her item. Adjustable.
I'm going to
12. Swipe up or down with one finger to adjust the value.
Okay, I'm going to double tap.
Minutes. 38 minutes. Adjustable.
Okay.
Swipe up or down.
What
with one
I now
finger.
have, you heard a little sound that indicates it too. I now have a telephone style keypad here. And what I can do is I can enter, I don't have to delete anything, I don't have to select anything, we don't want to overthink this. I can simply enter a 1-digit hour and a 2-digit minute. All right, so let me find my keypad.
5.
There's the 5. And then,
1. 5.
all right.
PM. Pick her 15 minutes. Pick 5 o'clock. Save.
See what it did? It automatically
5 o'clock. Pick her item. 15 minutes. Pick her item.
It took care of that for me because I entered it that way. So again, you double tap in the hour field and you then enter a 1-digit hour and a 2-digit minute. So if it's 00, that's, you know, right on the hour, but you don't need a 2-digit hour, just a 1-digit hour. Okay, so 9:15.
What if you have a 2-digit hour, like 12 or 11?
Right. If you have to enter a 2-digit hour, then you do. But you know, so it could be either or. When it's a double-digit hour, you do enter. That's right. So like 9:15 would be 915. 11:15, you would have to do a 2-digit. It'd be 1115. So.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't make, yeah.
No, that's okay, because for some people would think that you would need like 09
right.
or 9, you know.
Right, yeah, that was my initial intent, but I just didn't explain it right. But yeah, you don't need the 0. So it could be a 1 or 2-digit hour, but definitely a 2-digit minute, okay? So there you go. So now, then if I swipe to the right,
PM. Pick her item. 15
Okay.
minutes. PM. Pick her item. Adjustable.
And
2
that
of
is
2. AM. 1 of 2. PM. 2 of 2.
all I did there was swipe up or down, okay? If for some reason it doesn't work, if I like
Characters.
set my rotor to characters, now you see
Cap P. Cap M.
I can't change it. I just set it back to value adjust, or, you know, I could probably, if I swipe away from it and back to it, it's probably automatically going to revert to adjust value.
15 PM. Pick her item. PM. 1 of 2.
And it does, see?
PM. 2
All right,
of
so
2.
those are pickers. They're value adjusters. Now, if we continue to the right,
Repeat. Never. Button.
so we can choose what days of the week this alarm occurs on by double tapping that button.
Label. Alarm. Button.
If you want to change the title of the alarm, you know, that's why you heard that one that says church. You can double tap on this label button and it will bring up a text edit field. You can type the correct text.
Sound. Clock radio project. Button.
So there's a bunch of sounds that you can choose from if you double tap on that. Sounds that ship with your iPhone, and you can purchase others from the Tone store, or you can create your own. I actually used GarageBand to bring this into my Tones library, and that's why it says project on it, but it's a traditional clock radio sound. And let's see if I can show you.
Snoop. Sound. Clock radio Spider-Man and his amazing friends. Rolling in the deep. Roar.
See, I've got some songs that I got from the Tone store. Let me see if I can show you what that...
Back sound. Vibrate songs.
Oh.
Edit vibration. Default. Button.
Yeah, you can even create a custom vibration for your alarm.
Songs. Heading.
All right.
Twinkle twinkle little eensy weensy spider. Pick a song. Button. Ringtones. Headed.
So you can pick a song from your music library, and then you have the ringtones.
A baby changes 1,000 years. Apple iPhone 7 AirPods. Change. Christmas. Cough syrup. Dark horse.
I mean, any of these that we want to pick. And I think my clock radio project is going to be further down. Let's 3-finger swipe up to
Rows 12 to 30 of 70.
Let's do it again.
Rows 28 to 47 of 70. Constellation.
Okay, yeah.
Apex.
I think it's in this category.
Radar. Default. Selected. Clock radio project. You've got mail.
These are
Atoms
called...
of you and I.
Well, I guess these are...
You've got selected.
These are considered text tones, maybe, or...
Radar. Default.
Radar is the default that comes with it. But, like, here's the clock radio one.
Selected.
And
clock radio project.
It'll play for
Actions
just a few seconds.
Selected. Clock radio project.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Sound.
And so that's just like a clock radio, you know? So that's that is that's how you do it. You just select the sound you want, double tap on it, it gives you a preview of it, and then at the upper left-hand corner of the screen is a back button, just like you would expect, and that's how you go back to the previous screen.
Sound. Clock radio project.
All right. Then we have
Snooze. Switch button. On. Double tap to toggle setting.
another toggle, and that's just to determine whether you want to allow snoozing. If you snooze, it's like, I think, a 9-minute interval, you know, just like a traditional clock radio. And basically, that's how you can determine whether or not you want to be able to snooze. Some people don't want that option.
Snooze.
And
Switch
that's
button.
the last field here. So if we are done with this, we can either save it or, in this case,
Cancel button.
upper left is cancel, upper right is save.
9:10 a.m. alarm off.
And we're right back to where we were before we began that process. So that's another example of a, you know, of an add item sort of field, just like add contact. This was add alarm, and it's, you know, not all that different. I mean, some of the, you know, some of the elements on the screen were a little different and had different functionality and features, but you're starting to see this pattern, you know, and I also want to point out there are 3 other tabs in this app. World clock, so you can, if you're traveling or something, you can have different clocks.
Screen dimmed.
That you can see simultaneously what time it is in different time zones, you know. And the stopwatch, and then the timer. And the timer is great because you can tell it, you know, and by the way, just a reminder, you know, we haven't really talked extensively about Siri. Siri is fantastic, and I really love Siri. But, you know, I didn't really demonstrate. I mean, you can use Siri to set an alarm, you know, wake me up at 9 a.m. or turn on my 8:30 alarm, set an alarm, you know, whatever. The nice thing about it is you can use natural language, you know, and then you could do like set a timer for 20 minutes, pause the timer, stop the timer, how much time is left on my timer. And of course, just to restate what's probably obvious, you can activate Siri with the side button or the top button on an iPad. And you also, if it's enabled, have the option of using that wake phrase, you know, hey. And you know, just to take this further with the alarm and timer stuff, I pretty much always use Siri for that. Because it doesn't need anything else, and it's easy. And if you have a HomePod or an Apple Watch, either one or both of those things, they support multiple timers. And, you know, what you can do is you can name your timer, you know, like set a spaghetti timer, a pizza timer for 20 minutes, set a laundry timer for 45, you know, you can do that. And then you can ask Siri how much time is left on it by name. And also when the timer goes off and it rings with whatever tone, VoiceOver, not VoiceOver, but Siri, actually. It's actually not even VoiceOver. It's Siri, like on the HomePod. It will actually speak the name of the timer so that you know which timer it was. So that's a great thing you can do with the HomePod. And another thing you can do with the HomePod, this is really cool, by the way. The HomePod can detect your other Apple devices and interact with them. So you can use the Home app on your phone to set a timer on your HomePod. You can see the timers on your HomePod. This is the beauty of, and I don't want to take too much time because this could be a soapbox, but really people need to understand the beauty of the integration of the Apple devices with each other and the Apple apps with the Apple devices and iCloud and it is just incredible, the way this stuff works together. How many platforms can you do that on, where I can tell the HomePod to stop a specific alarm on a phone nearby? I mean, that's to me is really incredible.
What I'd like to do today in the time we have remaining is I want to teach you just how to type at the most basic level. All right. For those who are more advanced, this is going to be boring to you maybe, because we're not going to today get into the different typing modes. We're not going to get into slide to type. We're not going to get into editing yet. Now that's all coming. All right. That's in this course, but it's not today. Okay. What I want to do today is I want to make sure that our newest VoiceOver users, the most basic user, brand new to this whole world, I want to make sure you can at least type. I want to make sure you can at least get text into an edit field when and if you need to, because you will need to if you really want to be productive with your phone. Step number 1, really and truly, folks, I'm serious about this. Make sure that you already know the layout of a computer keyboard. That is going to help you so much if you can do that. I learned typing when I was 5 years old because my mom was most of her adult life had been in some sort of secretarial position until she became a technology consultant for a school district. And so she always typed a lot. And even when we moved to this area and she didn't yet have a job, individuals would find out about her skill and they would hire her to type things for them. And, those were the days of Word Perfect and, the basic word processors. And my mom even had a typewriter before that. And I was always fascinated by how fast she could type. And so when I was about 4 years old, I said, I want to learn to do that. And so I sat down with her and she taught me how to type. And part of that is memorizing the layout of the computer keyboard. And praise God, I mean, that has helped me so much. And it will help you tremendously if you know how to type without seeing the keyboard, if you know how to type without thinking about it, if you don't have to hunt and peck, proper home row. Now, you can't use proper home row on an iPhone, fingering on an iPhone, that is. You're not going to be able to use proper home row fingering on an iPhone, of course, because the screen just isn't going to permit that. You can on an iPad in landscape mode. So if you're taking the iPad course, you're going to see I love to type on the screen of an iPad, and I use proper home, fingering. Your pointer, your index fingers on the F and the J, and the rest of the fingers fall into place. It's really, really cool. But even though you're not going to do that on an iPhone, as a matter of fact, when I type on an iPhone, I type with one finger. I just use my right index finger to type most of the time. Some people like to use their thumbs. There's different ways to do that. But here's the point I'm getting to. The keyboard on an iPhone, even though the screen is smaller, is still laid out with the typical QWERTY fashion. Okay, most of you know QWERTY. That stands QWERTY. It's the first 6 letters of the top row of alphabetical keys on a computer keyboard, right? You need to really, really practice this and memorize it. So if I say to you, what's to the right of the J? You say K. You know it instantly. You don't have to think about it. And I say, keep going. You can say JKL semicolon apostrophe. You know that stuff. Okay. Why is that so important for an iPhone if you're not going to use the same fingering anyway? Because it is going to help you to get a visual picture of how the keyboard on the screen is laid out. And when you have a visual picture of how the keyboard on the screen is laid out, you will not have to struggle by swiping left and right. So you can use, when a keyboard on screen appears, like in an edit field, okay, you can use every single VoiceOver gesture that we've already taught you. Okay, you can swipe left and swipe right. You can explore by touch. And when you get to a letter you want to insert, you simply double tap it. And that's fine. But if you do it that way, it is going to take you a long time to type, especially if you're using the swipe right method. or swipe left for that matter. And I've had students who do this, and I promise I'm not making fun of them, nor am I criticizing them. I'm just using this as an example to illustrate why it's so important to get this muscle memory and get this layout visually in your head, because I've had students who need to enter their Apple ID or something, maybe to get an app or their password, to get an app that we're going to be working on together or something. And they'll need to enter a letter, and they will literally start swiping, and maybe they need an L, but they have no idea. So they start swiping, and you hear QWERTYUIOP, and then it goes to the next row, ASDFGHJKL. And finally, they get to that L, and they can double tap to insert it. But imagine how long that's going to take and how frustrating that's going to be. You'll never want to type anything meaningful on the iPhone if that is the way that you always go about it. And a lot of voiceover users do, and they don't want to type anything meaningful on the screen of their iPhones. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can learn approximately where the keys are on an iPhone. And here's my son. Carson, do you have your iPhone right there? Can I see it for just a minute? I'm going to demonstrate because they won't hear my iPhone, and it's different on the iPad. So turn on VoiceOver for me if you would, or I'll do it. I don't care. Okay. Now I'm going to type, and I'm going to give you this example. Whoops. Okay. Accidentally.
Return.
Okay. So I don't know which typing mode we're on here. Let's see.
Mentions. Misspell edit. Typing mode. Standard touch typing. Direct touch typing.
I'm going to ultimately use direct touch because that's what I like.
Misspelled mentions. Character.
If you're a new voiceover user, it's too soon for you to use direct touch typing, but I just want to demonstrate. All right. So this is option 1. If you don't know where the keyboard is laid out, I'm going to type hello, and I might have to do something like this.
TYUROPPNDPGHHDLLLE shift Z.
Oops, see, put an E in there.
Hello.
Okay, I just have to. I mean, that's going to be ridiculous. So here's option 2. I learned the layout of the keyboard. I might orient myself, and before you know it, and in that amount of time, I just typed hello, how are you? And I made a mistake. I typed YOY instead of YOU, but it auto-corrected. So here's what we now have.
Message. Text field is editing. Hello. How are you?
Okay. Way faster. What you're seeing is how important it is to know the layout of the screen. I was able to do that. Praise God. I give him the glory. But in the earthly component to that is I know how the keyboard is laid out. So I don't have to, every now and then I might be a character off, okay? Because, it's an on-screen keyboard. But that's where autocorrect comes in. And so, it will drastically change the experience. So the most important first step here is to memorize the layout, get really, really comfortable, really familiar with how a computer keyboard is laid out. Now, on an iPhone, you will not have the number row. You'll just start with the Q. Okay, you won't have numbers above it. And your punctuations will most often not be with the main alphabetical keys. At the bottom left of the screen on an edit field where there's a keyboard that appears on screen, you'll find a more button. It says numbers. And the numbers, so at the bottom left is a numbers symbol. VoiceOver says numbers, and when you tap on that, you get your punctuation 1 through 0. You get, common punctuation, period, comma, question mark, exclamation, and then the more advanced symbols are on yet another keyboard that's called symbols. And again, the bottom left has these icons to switch back and forth. So when we pick up on this on Monday, we're going to continue. We'll talk a little more in depth about that. We'll talk about dictation as well, because there is a microphone icon right alongside the other keys. There's an emoji icon. But what I just want to stress for today is that you don't have to mess with any of these typing modes or anything. Just use your standard VoiceOver gestures. So it's helpful if you know approximately where a key might be, where a letter might be on the keyboard. But even if you don't, you can swipe left and right as I was demonstrating. And when you find the character that you want to insert, you just double tap. anywhere on the screen. And it really is as simple as that for now. As I said, there's going to be more extensive typing stuff that we're going to teach later on in the course. But that is enough to get you started so that, if you want to watch, Disney Plus or listen to Sirius XM or even just log into your Apple account, on your iPhone, you can do it by entering your Apple ID or the, login email or whatever it may be on a, particular app or site. And then you can enter the password and you'll be able to do this with a reasonable amount of success by just finding the letter, whether you do it by touch or you swipe to it, and then just double tap to insert that letter. All right, everybody, God bless you and have a great rest of your week and weekend and everything, and we will see you next time.